There are three things in life that are guaranteed: death, taxes, and From Software making terrible weapons in their games. Elden Ring, being no exception, has a decent amount of them. So today I'm going to bring you the top 10 worst weapons you can use in the game today. Also, I am limiting it to one weapon per weapon class to keep some variety. And remember that this is my opinion. There are a ton of weapons in this game, so this list wasn't necessarily easy to make. And not all of us are going to agree on everything. So with that out of the way, sit back, relax, and let's get right into it. Number 10, Family Heads. Flails are often cast aside by most players due to their weak damage, range, Ash of War selection. There are a lot of reasons to not use a flail in Elden Ring. Now, some would say the weakest flail is the base flail that you get in the beginning of the game. While it does suck, it is infusible. The Family Heads, on the other hand, is a somber weapon with a terrible Ash of War. It scales mainly with dexterity and intelligence, meaning its damage is split between physical and magic. And like I said, the damage is not great. Considering all the other dex int options you have in the game, why on earth would you ever touch this? Especially once you look at Familial Rancor. This Ash of War is so slow. It is a Ghost Flame Ash, so you can build up Frost with it, but again, the damage and speed of this Ash both suck. Not to mention, the normal attacks from the Family Heads don't build up Frost themselves. That is a rotten cherry on top of a shit sundae right there. Number 9, Grafted Dragon. The Grafted Dragon is a fist weapon that someone clearly wanted to be interesting. On paper, I'd say it is rather interesting. An early game fire damage fist weapon you get from a boss that is clearly meant to be used in your offhand. Surely this will be the ultimate offhand weapon and really badass, right? Newsflash, it's a whole lot of ass. For starters, if you want to dual wield it, you have to get 2 of them, unlike every other fist weapon in the game. Now, I will admit that is lore accurate, and it does have the same heavy attacks as the Iron Ball and Star Fist, which are way better options if you want to use those attacks. Again, it's meant to be used in your offhand. The Ash of War, Bear Witness, even overrides your right-handed weapon's Ash of War. This Ash of War looks kinda good, and it actually has use against Erdtree Avatar bosses. Outside of that, it's really slow, it will probably get you killed, and the damage output normally isn't anything remarkable. The weapon does do some extra damage against dragon-type enemies, but the damage is still terrible. At least whacking other players in the face with a dragon head is funny, until you remember where the weapon came from. No one loves you, Godric. Number 8, Dragon Great Claw. I almost didn't even bother mentioning this weapon on this list because it hardly deserves to be in a ranking. The Dragon Great Claw is the most disappointing weapon in this game because it should have been so much more. Some weapons should be awful, and this is not one of them. This is a somber colossal weapon with Endure for the Ash of War. Not looking great already. Then you realize that the Dragon Great Claw is what the Draconic Tree Sentinels use. The Draconic Tree Sentinels. You know, some of the most menacing enemies in the game who use those really flashy red lightning attacks. Yeah, you get none of that with this. Now, similar to the Grafted Dragon, it does do extra damage against dragons. It's a solid buff to the damage, but there are way better dragon killers in the game, and nothing will make up for how incredibly lame the Dragon Great Claw is to use. Even a red lightning buff for the Ash of War would have been sort of interesting. FromSoft could have done so much more with this one. Look elsewhere if you would like to use a colossal weapon. There are a lot of insane ones out there. Number 7, Spirit Glaive. Originally, when I used this halberd, I thought it was decent, but as time went on, I realized out of all the DLC weapons, the Spirit Glaive really sticks out like a sore thumb. It is a halberd, which normally I would be glazing excessively, but in this case, there is nothing to glaze. Simply because this is the family heads of the halberd weapon class. It is a Ghost Flame armament, you get Rancor Slash for your Ash, which is a unique version of Sword Dance, where guess what? Little slow-moving skulls fly out that deal damage and do frost buildup. Yay, woo! You are better off cold infusing any other halberd with Sword Dance and ignoring the fact this even exists. FromSoft did not learn their lesson with the family heads and other Ghost Flame weapons, so now we have this shitty halberd. At the end of the day, though, it does look kind of cool. Number 6, Veray's Bouquet. One of the lowest damage weapons in the game that comes from one of the lowest NPCs in the game. Veray's Bouquet is only decent for one thing, and it's rotting away in your chest. Applying greases or weapon buffs to it makes it a bit better. The build-up numbers are solid, but the low damage and abysmal range of the bouquet makes it bottom tier. The Ash of War you are given is Blood Tax, which is unironically a good Ash of War on weapons with good range. Seriously, this hammer is so bad, it makes Blood Tax feel like Dookie. One of the most buffed Ashes of War in the game that is genuinely amazing now is rendered useless because of this guy's fruity metal flowers. And getting your hands on it means you will have to interact with Veray, and no one really wants to do that. You have so many options for arcane weapons in this game that are broken. Use this for the meme, or don't use it at all. Number 5, Iron Spear. Spears got power crept harder than any other weapon class in this game. On release, spears were considered broken. Slowly but surely throughout the patches, they kept getting nerfed, directly or indirectly. Now they are undeniably mid, where the only viable way to use them is dual wielding. As much as I wish two-handing spears was actually good in Elden Ring, we sadly do not live in that timeline. Now, the Iron Spear itself doesn't stand out in any particular way. Boring moveset, weak damage, incredibly short. It has nothing going for it besides the fact it looks decent with a lot of different armor sets. And this is the first weapon on this list that has to be farmed for, making it that much more of a letdown when you get it. And I know I basically just said two-handing a spear is terrible, cause it is, but basically every other spear in the game either has a unique moveset, unique property, better range, better damage, dual wielding or two-handing, not a single reason to use the Iron Spear outside of fashion. And even then, it's not that eye-catching. Number 4, Mantis Blade. Oh, how intrigued I was by this curved sword. The foldable blade and unique heavy attacks made it seem like there would be some potential here. The hitbox technically becomes the longest out of all the curved swords, which sounds really nice, but in combat you will quickly realize the Mantis Blade is not so special after all. Dagger level range on the light attacks makes it feel unusable at times. The heavy attack animations are very clunky and won't serve you better than any other curved sword heavy attack. Poor scaling and damage all around. It only drops from one cemetery shade in Gelmir Hero's Grave 2. It's an obscure sword to say the least. I've only seen one player use this in PvP ever, and it was one of my OG opponents, Duck Noodle Soup. Besides that, I haven't seen a soul touch the Mantis Blade, and that's probably for the best. And with how good curved swords are in this game, it sucks that they couldn't show more love to this glorified garlic press. Number 3, Torch. The normal torch is genuinely useful for lighting up dark areas, which there are a lot of in this game. However, it's not going to light anyone up in combat. It's the only torch without any special properties to add to its utility. No status effects, nothing like that. It is just a simple torch. I almost feel bad for putting it at 3, but hey, it is not an effective weapon. I really don't have any hate towards the torches in this game. FromSoft genuinely did an amazing job with making all the torches useful, with some of them actually being good in combat. It's been really cool to see, but nah, the basic torch does suck in combat. It's okay though, we still love it. Number 2, Weathered Straight Sword. Coming as a shock to probably nobody, the Weathered Straight Sword is a weapon that is clearly meant to be one of the weakest links. Both the range and damage show this blade as a shadow of its former self. Definitely the worst straight sword out there, and one of, if not the worst melee weapon in the game. There is nothing saving this. You can farm it from commoner enemies, though I don't know why you would. If you really want a straight sword early game, go buy a broadsword, and avoid the weathered straight sword at all costs. This might as well be the broken straight sword from Dark Souls 1. The weathered straight sword is absolutely meant to be terrible, so if you come across it and you choose to use it, just know what you're getting yourself into. Now, before we get to the one weapon that has reigned supreme over the bad weapons of Elden Ring, I do want to make some honorable mentions. These are going to be weapons that could easily be interchanged with basically anything on this list. Again, there are a lot of dogshit weapons in this game, like the scythe and its disgusting heavy attacks, the harp bow, which at least plays music, smith script dagger from the DLC, ivory sickle, who the hell uses that, forked tongue hatchet, the stone sheathed sword, basically every black gargoyle weapon, and finally the rotten crystal staff. Those crystal armaments aren't so hot either. Those and the black gargoyle weapons are sort of in the same league. If you guys feel like I have missed any weapons so far in this list, feel free to let me know down in the comments. And now it is time for the number one worst weapon in Elden Ring, even after DLC. The worst weapon in the game is the soldier's crossbow. I gotta acknowledge how impressive the soldier crossbow's run has been. This crossbow has consistently been the most dogshit weapon in the game, even after the release of DLC, and it's not even close. Single-shot crossbows aren't powerful in this game to begin with, but this takes it to a whole new level. Worst damage out of the crossbows, you have to farm for it, it has no unique properties, it's not a pretty weapon by any means. Getting a better crossbow than this in the early game isn't hard at all either. Farming for this is the biggest waste of time. If you value your time, even just a little bit, and you like ranged weapons, go for any other ranged option in the game. The soldier's crossbow has never brought anything to the table, and it will continue to be that way forever. Go farm exile and foot soldiers until you get this, then try to tell me it was worth it. 10 times out of 10, it won't be. Those were my top 10 worst weapons in Elden Ring. If you like what you've seen here today, go ahead and hit the like, it also helps me out a ton. And if you want updates for when future videos come out, smash that subscribe and noti bell. Thank you for watching, thank you for all your support, take it easy, stay safe, and avoid all the weapons on this list.